feel like God gets you? Do you feel like people get you? Do you feel like God sees you and understands your life position? That's the topic we want to talk about today, looking at the life of Hagar. And I base this question based on a movie that I saw years ago, a delightful little movie called Juno, and it's about a high school girl that gets pregnant, and she feels like nobody gets her. That's the phrase she used. Nobody gets her. Her fellow students didn't get her because she was pregnant in high school, and there weren't any other kids in her high school that were pregnant. And then other moms didn't get her because they weren't in high school and they were at a different stage in her life, and her boyfriend didn't get her. And it's a poignant story about how we all desperately want someone to get us, someone to understand us, someone to see us on the inside, see what we are feeling and see what we are going through. And I want to talk to you today about the God who sees us, the God who sees, and the God who sees you, and the God who gets you, no matter what your life situation. We're going to illustrate this story from the life of Hagar. Do you know anything about Hagar? I think if you'd asked me a week or two about who is Hagar, I would have had to, who is Hagar? It might have taken me a moment. It might take you a moment, and I bet you your people, if you say, today we're going to talk about Hagar, if they're honest, they're going to struggle just a little bit to remember who this is, because this is not a main character. And that's a part of our big idea here, is that God cares, He sees, He gets you, not only if you are Abraham, not only if you are Sarah, but even if you are a second string player in the drama of God's unfolding story. So here's our first observation. God gets what it is to be mistreated. God gets you if you have been mistreated. Genesis 16:6 says, "Your slave is in your hands," Abram said. "Do with her whatever you think best." Then Sarai mistreated her, Hagar, so she fled from her. Must have been pretty bad. This graph is generated, as always, by Logos Bible software, which I highly recommend, and it shows us how this underlying Greek or Hebrew word is used in other places, sometimes afflicted, sometimes humbled or oppressed, sometimes subdued, mistreated, sometimes even raped or violated. And the point is a strong word, and Sarai mistreated her. The story is about someone who is mistreated, and if you have been mistreated, if you have been abused, the message of the gospel is God sees. God sees you. This is one of the reasons why Jesus came, so that He could know experientially what it is to be mistreated. We read in Matthew 9:24, Jesus said, "Go away. The girl is not dead, but asleep." But they all laughed at Him. Have you ever been in a group where everyone laughed at you? Doesn't feel so good, right? And we serve a God who knows what it feels to be laughed at. And then on the cross, we read that they twisted together a crown of thorns and set it on His head. They put a staff in His right hand. They knelt in front of Him and they mocked Him. Have you ever been mocked? If you've been mocked, Jesus can relate to your suffering. They mocked Him. "Hail, King of the Jews," they said. 2 verses later, after they had mocked Him, they took off the robe and put His own clothes on Him. Then they led Him away to crucify Him. Sadly, research indicates that abuse has been on the rise. This graph indicates the number of abuse cases reported since 2008, and you can see it's about quadrupled between 2008 and 2018. And most of this was psychological abuse, and there may be that some of this is reporting more now than it was then, that the number of abuse cases have not actually increased, but the number of reporting has increased. But that, of course, raises another question, and that is, was it underreported then, or is it overreported now? And I do think there is a tendency for us to kind of devalue language. My dad taught me about this, and he used the illustration of the word unique. Technically speaking, the word unique means one of a kind. It means that there is only one. If something is unique, it means there's only one of those. But you hear people talk today about how something is very unique. Well, by definition, it can't be very unique. It is either unique, it is either one of a kind, there's either one and only one of these, or it is unusual. Maybe it could be very unusual, but it cannot be very unique. And you hear lots of words these days. Awesome, for example. People will talk about an awesome breakfast and an awesome sunset and an awesome this and an awesome that, and everything is awesome. And when everything becomes awesome, nothing becomes awesome. And this word abuse, I think, may be overused in some cases. Another word, by the way, that I hear overused these days is the word mental health. We used to use the word mental health to describe schizophrenia or clinical depression or some severe condition. But I get the impression some people use the word mental health. That's not good for my mental health, in the sense that it just kind of puts me in a